First, thank you so much for helping us out today, but just what are your thoughts on the new curfew ordinance that City Council just recently passed for us?
I think it's a great thing to have because if children aren't supervised, they're going to get into trouble or something's going to happen to them.
Right.
So I think it's really good for them.
Great. And so this was a great preventative measure maybe to keep them, like you said, out of trouble or becoming a victim of a crime.
Correct.
Okay, good.
I would not want them out and about at night, especially.
Right.
Doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
So Talia, I've explained the curfew law to you, the changes that have taken effect. I have noticed your mother. How many children do you have?
One.
You got one baby. How old are they?
He's 3.
3. That's awesome. So what do you think of the new law?
I think it's actually awesome. It eliminates a lot of crime and it helps keep my baby safe. So.
And really, that's the overall goal of it, is to keep our babies safe. We appreciate
No
it.
police.
So ladies first, thank you so much for talking with us today, but just real quickly, tell me what are your thoughts on the new curfew ordinance that went into effect in early August? What do you think?
I agree with it because most of the violence that's been going on has been with the 15, 16, 17-year-old age range. I agree.
Do you? And I mean, for young family members, nieces, nephews, or brothers and sisters, is it something that you think will benefit them in terms of their parents knowing where they are and whom they're with?
Yeah, definitely.
So this new curfew law that recently went into effect, my understanding is it's for children 13 and under have to be inside by 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And if you're between 14 and 17, you have to be in by 11.
That's correct.
And I guess the reason City Council enacted it, and they enacted it really quickly, is that they were wanting not only children to be responsible for themselves, but they want parents to take responsibility and help supervise their children. Is that right?
Right. Well, recently we've seen an increase where juveniles have unfortunately been targeted by crime, or they are a suspect of crime. And a lot of these incidents were occurring in the late to overnight hours.
And that's really because juveniles lack the judgment skills and really the perspective to know where they should and shouldn't be, and what they should or shouldn't do sometimes just due to peer pressure. City Council, obviously, they're very brilliant. They know what they're doing. So they put some exceptions into the law because we know that every situation is different. And one of those situations is if a child is coming to or from a workplace.
Correct.
Another is obviously if they're going to or from a school or city-sponsored event.
Correct.
Or, God forbid, a juvenile is on an emergency errand, or they're on a legitimate errand for their parent, right?
We understand there are exceptions to every rule, and that's why City Council was, again, like I said, brilliant to put these exceptions in place. And so we understand that there are exceptions to every rule, and we will certainly accommodate those as they come up.
But one of the key components with this new curfew law is that not only can juveniles be held accountable, but their parents can be held accountable too. Isn't that right?
That's correct. This is certainly an accountability issue, and we want these parents to know, one, where their children are and who these children are with.
Right, and that would happen through the course of the investigation.
Correct.
So an officer would stop a juvenile if they were suspected of being out for curfew. They would contact the parents.
Yes.
If the parent says, I know where they're at, and they should be walking down the street doing nothing, then it's not up to the officer. Officers have discretion whether or not they're going to issue the parent a citation, but they certainly could at this. So in other words, if I'm understanding this law correctly, they could go to the movies.
Correct.
Or they could go to a friend's house.
Yes.
And as long as they're at that private property, or they stay at the movies, or they stay at the friend's house, they're fine.
Right, but the exception is they have to, when they leave that movie theater or that friend's house or that private event, they have to have transportation home by a parent or a guardian.
And a guardian, just in case anybody doesn't know, a guardian is someone who a parent allows another adult to take care of their kids, or the courts actually say, you are supervising these kids, you're responsible for it.
Correct.
So if a child is issued a citation, my understanding is the curfew law is a class 4 misdemeanor, which holds up to a $250 fine.
Yes.
And if they're a repeat offender, a judge could actually rule that they become a part of the Children in Needs of Services, or the CHINS program, right? So Corporal Shackelford, you brought up a good point. This law, the exceptions actually covers school-sponsored events too.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were coming home from a homecoming or prom or a football game, as long as they were going to or from the city-sponsored event straight to home, they would not be committed a curfew violation.
That's correct.
Right?
That is correct. But the key is they have to go straight home. That means they can't go to McDonald's drive-thru, no stopping at a 7-Eleven.
Right.
They're to go from that school-sponsored event or a city-sponsored event straight home.
So if they're leaving a football game and they go to the 7-Eleven across the street before they go home, they actually are committing a curfew violation if it's past 10 o'clock if they're 13 or under, or past 11 if they're between 14 and 17.
That's correct. That is a violation of curfew.
In conclusion, this new ordinance is just another tool for the Hampton Police Division to utilize to make sure that your children are safe. They are absolutely our number one priority. And again, this is to prevent them from being either a victim of a crime or making a poor judgment and then becoming a suspect in a crime.